They say there are no winners in war, but that's not strictly true. One group always ends up on the winning side, the people who bankroll the wars. They sit far away from the battlefield and flash their checkbooks, while people on the ground suffer. What about the conflict in Gaza? Who is bankrolling it? And where does Hamas get its money and weapons from? Their biggest supporter is Qatar. And this should not come as a surprise. State-sponsored terrorism is trademark Qatar policy. In 2017, they were pulled up by a group of Muslim nations. They cut off diplomatic ties with Qatar and imposed a trade blockade. The blockade was lifted earlier this year, but those concerns still remain. Qatar supports Hamas both financially and politically. So far, they have transferred $1.8 billion to them, $1.8 billion. So you could say Qatar is sustaining the Gaza Strip. Since 2018, they have been paying $20 million per month. What is this money used for? On paper, it is used to pay civil servants, to make roads and hospitals, and to pay monthly stipends to people. But the fact is, there is no way to verify this. Hamas is not exactly filing audit reports, so we have to take their word for it. Money is Hamas's number one priority. Number two is recognition, and Qatar has been happy to indulge. In 2012, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani visited the Gaza Strip. He was the first state leader to court the Hamas government. Even now, when the violence escalated, Hamas leaders were dispatched to Doha. They met Qatar's top diplomat to seek international backing. The other big supporters are Iran and Turkey, as expected, you would say. Last year, President Erdogan hosted Hamas's military chief. Now, this is a man with a $5 million bounty on his head. Guess who announced this bounty? Turkey's NATO ally, the United States. What about Iran? In 2018, they were paying $70 million per year. $70 million per year, that's around $6 million per month. This is in addition to the weapons sales, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the biggest source of Hamas's funding is humanitarian aid. This aid is intended for the people of Gaza, but it rarely reaches them. Hamas spends 55% of its budget on military, 55%. Just 5% is allocated for rehabilitating its people. It's the same story with taxes. Hamas collects $27 million in taxes, and most of it is used to pay their fighters and workers. So the benefits have not reached the people. Now we come to the weapons. Hamas prides itself as a militant group. So where do they get their rockets from? Mostly Iran. Hamas used to smuggle Iranian rockets through Egypt and Sudan. But both these countries have a new regime, so Hamas had to look elsewhere. Today, they make their own rockets and they source the materials and technology from Hezbollah in Lebanon, again funded by Iran. By all estimates, Hamas has around 10,000 rockets in their arsenal. They're mostly short-range missiles. You could get one for $800. And this is where Israel is bleeding money. Hamas is sending up cheap rockets from Gaza, but Israel has to deploy the Iron Dome to respond. And Iron Dome missiles are not cheap. Each one of them costs thousands of dollars. The bottom line is this: Hamas is loaded. They siphon millions of dollars from aid. They get monthly payments from Iran and Qatar, and not to mention $27 million in taxes. That's what they raise. Now compare this to the ground situation in Gaza. What are the living standards of the people in Gaza? Let me pull up some numbers for you. Gaza's population is just over 2 million. The poverty rate is 56%, which means 1 million people, more than 1 million people, are living in poverty. Half the population of Gaza. What about unemployment? 50%. Half the people of Gaza do not have jobs. They don't have enough schools or hospitals either. There are just 11 big hospitals in Gaza. So 11 hospitals for 2 million people. Same with schools. They're overstretched. Almost 85% of all schools in Gaza run double shifts. And more than half, more often than not in fact, they work without electricity. But their worries do not end there. The people of Gaza live in constant fear. An Israeli rocket or a Hamas misfire is just seconds away. Gaza is the perfect example of a poor land with rich rulers. Hamas is the third richest terror group in the world. They earn $700 million every year, $700 million. Saving the people of Gaza is not beyond Hamas. But that would mean shelving their military ambitions. A victory against Israel is not in Hamas's hands, but giving their people, the people of Gaza, a better life. That's something that Hamas can do. But in the pursuit of statehood, Hamas is forgetting who that state is for. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.